It is up, everyone. This is Captain Eon speaking, and I'll be sharing from chapter 51, verse 2, as well as using chapters 50, verse 9, and chapter 51, verse 6 to provide a little support for the main idea. Before I really started looking to extract something to share about from today's treatment, I began thinking about something I learned in school. And though the details are a little fuzzy, the idea was, and I think this was in a reproductive marine biology course, and the lesson was there are basically two types of species, or two types of species reproduction. What I mean is that, and I think one was like, species K or something, that's irrelevant, but the idea was one type of species deals with numbers, to reproduce. So like corals and fish, a lot of insects, things of that nature, sea turtles, that sort of thing. They have lots of offspring. And it's really a numbers game because they're just relying on that there'll be so many of them. The law of averages says a small percentage will survive to maturity to continue the process of procreation and keeping the species going. Whereas on the other hand, a lot of mammals, like humans and apes and things of that nature, usually have one, two, offspring. Very few offspring, but a lot of time goes into raising them. So they have very few offspring, but all the resources are put into these offspring. It takes a while for them to mature, but once they reach maturity, they are much more viable and can keep this, species going. And as you can see, human beings, for whatever reason, not whatever reason, but for all the reasons that make us human, we're basically the top of the food chain, if you want to say that. We are the greatest of creatures. Now, hopefully I explain this concept in a way that is at least a little bit understandable. But I did so to pose the question on which one is better. There are much more insects than there are human beings. And these are, the comparison of the two types of reproduction. But which one is better? Well, the aforementioned scriptures help me to not come to a decision, because I believe I already knew which one was better. But I now have more evidence to support my feelings. I'll bring it now to an example that maybe more would understand. So in today's entertainment landscape, it seems to be a lot more turnover. It's like it's all about numbers in hoping that one or two will stay. Whereas it seemed like before the internet age, lots of resources were put into, developing the talent. And a lot of these artists, this talent that had a lot of resource put into them, are still here and now have a lineage of not only producing for themselves, but reproducing for others, and so on and so forth. And so I think about this and I say, okay, in a spiritual sense, on one hand you have the world, who is about putting out numbers, and we see that again in the entertainment industry. There's this big thing now about gang, and everybody's running with crews and gangs and in numbers. It's about this numbers game. And from what I can see, very few to any are reaching maturity. In my opinion, that's how the enemy works. Because the time that darkness has is very limited, it must try to put as many things out there in the world and hoping something sticks. Whereas on the other hand, God calls individuals like myself out of the darkness into a new career path, so to say. He calls, or discovers, if we want to use the same terminologies. He finds the talent, goes out and discovers, and really he sees in me what I don't even know is there. But he sees that and he says, okay, I'm gonna manage you and I'm gonna help develop you. And it takes a very long time. It's a lifelong commitment that he has agreed to take upon himself so graciously in order to produce his beautiful bride, members of his beautiful bride. So, which one's better? I would say it depends on what outcome you desire. For if it's only just to get 15 minutes of fame, there will be more than enough opportunity to get that. But everything about the numbers game eventually wears out. It comes to an end. But if eternal life is the desire, then be prepared for a lifelong career in the righteousness of Christ. Caption this. From the only one to multiples of one.